So today I am with the fabulous Lucy Smoke. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm fabulous. We were just talking about prior to hopping on here how like funky Lucy looks. I'm just like she's got the hat, she's got the shirt, she's got the hair. Everything's happening. You're full Beyonce right now.
Thanks. I tell people like my aesthetic is unapproachable and witchy, but my personality is that of an overexcited puppy.
Well, my first one's pretty easy. What's it like living in South Carolina in the USA?
Hot. It's really warm most of the time, which I'm okay with because I am not the kind of person that can stand the cold. But I'm also really pale, if you can't tell. So the sun and I have a very love-hate relationship. I love it, it hates me. Um, but I mean, other than that, like I've grown up here, so I'm really happy with it. And I live towards like the city, so I've moved around a little bit. I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, which is like tourist central. And that was like the city. And now I live in a place called Greenville, which is less, it's not as big, but it's still very city-like. So I still get a lot of diversity. I'm happy with it.
Amazing. I've actually been, so you and I have discussed this a little bit, but I found the irony in the fact that Greenville is a place that I've been to. I wanted to move there. And so I find it so crazy that you actually live there. You're living my dream right now because I tried really hard. Like, that was the place I wanted to move to because I was like, it's so beautiful. It's kind of city, but it's not. Everything's happening and it's so green. Literally, it's called Greenville and it's green. It's amazing.
It's really close to the mountains. So like we get a lot of I don't know how to explain it. So down in the south we have hurricane season. So we get a lot of rain, especially that time of year. But instead of living on the coast where it's more dangerous, and you get a lot of like tides coming in with the hurricanes, we just kind of get like the outer ring of hurricanes. So we get a lot of rain, and so that's why everything is so green here, but we don't get any of the danger for the most part.
Take me back to the start of your writing journey. Where did it begin and what made you decide to write your first book and hit that publish button?
Okay. Well, so I've been writing for like 15 years, if not longer. Um, and I mean, I started in middle school. I'm only 26 now, but I started beginning of my middle school career. I just got into books, and then I was like, well, I would like to write my own book, and then I did. And then I wrote another and another and another. And I didn't actually publish until about 3.5 years ago. I published August, I think, 2017, and that was when I was going in for my master's degree. And it was actually another indie author that unintentionally pushed me to do it. I don't know if you've heard of Jex Lane at all. She's a fantasy writer, and I was one of her ARC readers of her very first book. And it wasn't a genre that I really, really like was really into, because I mean I like fantasy, but I'm not super into fantasy, and it's also an LGBTQ book. So, and I have read LGBTQ books, and I've written some too. It wasn't at that time one of my main genres that I loved reading. And then I read hers and I was like, oh my God, this is like the best thing I've ever read in my life. And I started talking to her, and I got her story. And I know that I think she had like a surgery and took, I think, a year off of her, full-time job, and decided to write this book. And I thought to myself, well, shit, if she can do it, then I can do it. You know what I mean? And then I did, and I hit publish, and the rest is history.
Wow. How did you find that? Like, what was the hardest obstacle, would you say, for yourself, like going into that? Because it's not as easy as just like hitting publish, done. You have to learn a lot doing it. And, you make mistakes along the way. Did you find that there were certain mistakes that you made? And then when you did release the second and the third book, it just became a lot easier after that?
Oh, absolutely. I think every book I publish, and I've got over 30 books published now, I think every book I publish is like I'm still learning something new. So each time I get better and better and better, and I look back at where I was and I was like, I have come very far, and I'm very happy about that. But I mean, my original covers weren't great. I am a little embarrassed by them now. And so I really hope that when people Google my name, they'll never ever find them. And those are like lost to the internet and gone forever. Um, And then of course my editing, I didn't know how to find an editor originally. And even though like I've been an editor before, I'm always under the belief that I should, like, for me personally, I feel like people should always have another person look at your work, because it's hard to see your work as objective when you're the one who wrote it. So finding an editor was really hard, and my first editor, we didn't get along, and it was not a great relationship. But my second editor was amazing. I have been with her ever since. She still works on my stuff, and she's awesome. And I've added another editor as well, just because I'm a perfectionist and I want I want my work to be as good as possible before I publish it. But yeah, I definitely, like, I didn't know anything about the market. I didn't know anything about ads or advertising. I didn't learn that until a year and a half into my career. And yeah, so I'll say I learn every time I publish something.
Because you actually have a background in writing, you studied it. Would you say that a lot? Because I've read your first book in the Sick Boy series. I actually finished it last night, and I have to admit, like, your writing is amazing. Like, the storyline's fabulous, and so is your writing. Like, you know, sometimes you have like a story and it's great, but the writing's like just not always there. But yours is so engaging. I could see every scene, and when I was reading, I was like, this is an experienced writer. You know how to engage, you know how to write out a scene properly. And I just want to know, like, whether you found that came from more so like a creative side. Like you said, you started when you were about 12, 13, when you started writing. Do you think a lot of your skill honed in when you were studying it?
Um, I do think so. I have a bachelor's and a master's in literature, language, professional writing, all that. And I do think that going through the university, and having those courses and having professional experience, because some of my professors were authors, they were published, and having them like kind of like direct me and help me definitely hone my skill. But I also don't think you need to go to school in order to become an author and to become a really well rounded author. Because one thing that I think the university experience taught me with writing, and I'll say this is like one of the best things it taught me, was how to take criticism and how to take criticism well. And I think that's really important. I'm able to really take in what people tell me, what my editors tell me, what my alpha readers tell me, what my beta readers tell me, and pick and choose what I think is important. And at the same time, like, I have the knowledge of like grammar, and I have the knowledge of developmental editing, and I have the knowledge like big picture versus like line sentence structure. I have that knowledge. So having that knowledge, I think, helps me to communicate with my editors better. So I think that's the best part of going through the university experience and having it hone my craft.
I want to talk about the Sick Boy series particularly, because you have a fan in me now. So thank you very much for writing that. And I actually read in the back, so like obviously you've done really, really well in that series. There's raving reviews everywhere, and rightly so. And I really have to be honest when I say it's not a genre I would usually read. So I wanted to give it a go because it was so foreign to me, and honestly, it was a genre I'd been hiding from for a long time, because I was like, I don't know, it's like, you know, the bully romance, stuff like that. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be into this. Like, this isn't my thing. What I loved about the book, and between the two main characters, Avalon and Dean, is the fact that neither of them good. And I remember saying this to a friend. I was gushing about your book, and I was just like, I'm actually really into it. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm really enjoying it, because they're both terrible people, like, and that's the whole, in the nicest way possible. But the word, but I loved it because it was so appropriate for them. And I said to her, I was like, is this usually what the bully romance genre is? And she's like, no, it's usually like a lamb. The girl's usually a little lamb, and she's like frightened and scared and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so that, I don't know, like, that might not be my thing, but I loved yours because it was so specific and in what made them tick. And for example, Avalon's adrenaline rush and needing that, and then Dean having his. And so they weren't the same, but it matched so well. And so I just want to talk about that series and what struggles you might have had writing it, because it is a very aggressive book. So did you have any struggles while writing that series?
Actually, yes. And this is very unlike me because I don't want to say I'm a master of beginning, but I am great at starting stuff. Not so great at finishing stuff, but I am great at starting stuff. Um, and for some reason with this book, I mean, I've had the Sick Boys in the back of my head for years. When I say I've had them for like a while, I've been planning to write this series. Um, I think since I almost pretty much since I wrote the Iris Boys series, which was towards the beginning of my career. Um, and so when I started this book, it was very, very difficult to get a lock on Avalon's personality. Um, I rewrote the beginning. When I say over 10 times, that is not an exaggeration. I have so many drafts that I lost count of them. And I cried over it, and I called my editor and I was like, I love this book. I love this idea. I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't really remember how I finally got started. I think I have to give it to my PA because she was just like, stop rewriting it and just just write the beginning, please, for the love of God. Because I was sending them to her each one. So she's read like so many beginnings to Sick Boys. And so I finally just I settled on one beginning and I just wrote from there. And I had a great alpha reader apart from my PA. And she's unfortunately not alpha reading for me right now, but she's editing for several other authors. So she's a wonderful person and we're still really good friends. So it's not for lack of trying on my part. It's more for lack of being able to fit it into her schedule. And I was writing through Avalon and I was like, what is wrong with her? There is something wrong with this book and I cannot figure out what it is. And so when I have she was a new alpha reader to me at that time. And I was like, listen, you can be as mean as you want. What I need reality. Like, what is wrong with this character that isn't working? And she said, she's too aggressive. Like, I don't see any redeemable or likable quality in her. And even if she is like a villainous character, which she kind of is, she needs to have something likable about her if she's the main character. And I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right. And so that was the struggle. But once I got it, I could now write Avalon in my sleep. She and I are so much alike. It's great.
So something quirky I noticed, and I want to talk about, is your TikTok account. So I don't. What's that face for?
Nothing. Ask your question.
So I don't have TikTok and I don't follow TikTok, but I have been watching, you also upload them on Facebook, and I absolutely love them. And this is before we'd even started talking, and I was laughing so hard at some of your TikToks. I was like, that's so relatable. And I wanted to know, was the point of, because I know there's been a lot of talk amongst authors, as soon as a social media comes out, we look at it as a marketing outlet or new strategy or new audience. So I'm curious as to whether, when you hopped onto TikTok, whether you were looking at it in that light or whether you were doing it just for another way to express yourself personally, and it's just been building from there.
Well, that's actually a funny story. I have 3 really, really good friends outside of the publishing world, and 2 of them got really into TikTok, and they kept sending me clips and videos and links, and I was adamant. I am like, I'm not gonna watch them. I think it's dumb. I'm not gonna get on TikTok. It's just gonna disappear in another couple of months. I don't care. And then they sent it to me so much, I was like, okay, I'll just get on just to see the videos. I'm not gonna. So it was like a gradual me getting on TikTok. So I hopped on, I started watching the videos and I was like, oh, this is funny. Oh, this is funny. Oh, this is, and it was like that for a couple of months. And then it was actually my readers who really pressed me to get on TikTok and start doing videos. And it's because, so on Instagram, you know how Instagram has the story aspect where you can post stories from your day or videos and stuff like that. I've been doing Instagram stories for well over a year, and I post crazy snippets of just me and my life and me hanging out with my friends and my dog and writing. And I would do funny little skits just myself. And they were like, oh, you should get on TikTok and you should do these skits on TikTok. And so at first I just started it just to be funny and to post stuff on Instagram. So I would actually do a video and I'd post it privately so nobody on TikTok could see it. And then so I could download it and then just put it on Instagram. So that's how it originally started. And then it kind of like exploded from there. I think I had one video go viral and it wasn't anything about books. So I was like, well, I mean, I see all these other authors doing stuff about their books. Why not? Books are a large part of my life. I'll do that too. So I do it to express myself and to have fun. But I mean, there's always going to be bookish stuff on any of my social media platforms just because it's such a large part of my life.
I want to talk about your multi-genre writing because your first book that you actually published was Damon in 2017. And so you go under, for like your steamier romances, you go under Lucy Smoke, and then you go under Lucinda Dark for your fantasy ones. And what I find it interesting after the start of this interview when you said you weren't originally into fantasy, but now you have quite a prominent feel for it because you've got numerous genres. Why did you decide to brand them separately? Do you think it's made it a lot more easier for you to like market different readerships because of it?
Yes, is the short answer. The longer answer is I actually published everything originally under Lucy Smoke. When I first published Damon, it was under Lucy Smoke. And it wasn't until I published Fortune Favors the Cruel and the Dark Magi series that I actually just transferred all of my fantasy stuff over to Lucinda Dark. And it was mostly because I noticed that so many people a lot of my readers saw me as a contemporary author, which is what Lucy Smoke is now, is mostly contemporary, and Lucinda Dark is fantasy. I've always read both genres for the most part. And I just goes in phases for me. Like sometimes I'll read more fantasy and sometimes I'll read more contemporary. But a lot of people just saw me as a contemporary author because the first success I had was with the Iris Boys series, which is a contemporary series. And I was like, well, that's great that you guys love that series, but I'm not just a contemporary author because I originally started with a fantasy series. And then I noticed, I broke them up and did two different names. I do tell people I am both. I don't try to hide either or. My readers do know that Lucinda Dark is also me. It's basically for them though. And to explain that is like, they know what they're getting based upon the name. So they're getting contemporary when they see Lucy Smoke, and they're getting something fantasy when they see Lucinda Dark. And I finally it was a really hard decision to make because I didn't want to have to do upkeep of two different pen names. And for the most part, I don't do upkeep with two different pen names. I still have one reader group. I have one Facebook page. I have one Instagram account. I can't handle doing multiples of that. It's just too much for me. Even with my awesome PA, who's awesome and does pretty much all of my social media work for me. Even with her, it's too much.
So it's been about 3.5 years now since your publishing journey. So, and you've had quite a lot of success with it. And I'm assuming it wasn't like that straight away. So I kind of want to know how that process was for you, having that strength to say, let's keep writing, let's keep going. Like, it's more of a personal thing, I guess, for yourself when you first start publishing those books. And then you slowly see the snowball effect of, gaining readers, and they want this and then they want that. How did you go along that journey? Like, what was oh wow, like I need to change something, or I've hit a milestone here in my career, I'm on the map? When was that moment for you?
I think it was actually after my second book, because it's really hard to say second book because I had Damon come out, and then I actually had Study Break, which is the first book in the Break series, come out, but that came out in an anthology in between Damon and Now or Never, Iris Boys. But Iris Boys was the first book that actually did really, really well. I feel like both of the books, the novella and the book before, I felt like they did okay. They weren't great by any means necessary, but for me, I was like a little baby author. I just started my master's program, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting paid to write books. Even if it was like a $20 check, I was like, oh my goodness, this is great. So whatever the progress was, I was super happy. So if the income increased each month, I was like, I'm doing great. But yeah, so it really hit me though. I think the first month after Now or Never published, in November of 2017, I was like, I can do this for a living.
Yeah.
And so that's when it hit me, because that one did fairly well. Not nearly as good as Sick Boys does now, but I also think success is relative. So I'm really happy with where I'm at, but I feel like I could always do better, because I'm always in that mindset of I want to learn, I want to experience, I want to do better.
What does your day-to-day look like? What is your routine?
I wish there was like some sort of magical routine that I had every day that would make me sit down and write all the words every single day. That is not how it happens though. I'm a night owl, so I joke around. I tell people I'm on Australian time, because I get up, I think like anywhere between noon and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, EST time. So when I actually traveled to Australia before, I would get up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be like, this is what normal people do. So here though, it's like halfway through the day when I wake up. I'm just a normal person. So I walk my dog, I come back to my apartment. I have an office in my apartment. I sit down and I do a lot of admin work, and then I jump into writing. And in that time frame, I spend about 3 to 5 hours every day just focusing on writing. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It depends on the day. And then I try to take the weekends off. It's not always possible, because I'm a workaholic, and people say if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, and whoever said that lied, because if you love what you do, you will work harder than you've ever worked in your life, and you will work every single day because you love it. And that's me, and I love what I do, so I work almost every single day.
I want to ask you about co-writing, because you have written with quite a few authors. Like, for example, I noticed one of the fantasy books that you wrote, you co-authored with Kel Carpenter. That one had grabbed my eye. And so I'm just curious as to how you found writing with somebody. How was the process for you? Did you have any, what's the word I'm looking for? Obstacles while doing that?
Well, of course, there's always obstacles when it comes to co-writing. Co-writing is a partnership, for lack of a better term. That's what it is. It's a partnership. And like every partnership in the world, some fail, some succeed, and some just make it through. And I think now I've actually written with multiple people, because I have a co-author that we published our first like a prequel novella. And then she took some time off of writing, so we're not actively published together, but me and her still talk. We still plan to finish this series that we're writing. We just haven't published it yet. And then, of course, I have Helen Scott that I published the Twisted Fae series with, and then AJ Macy that I published a contemporary series with. So I've got like multiple co-authors, and I've got multiple experiences. And it's like a marriage, essentially. When you're working that closely with someone, when your income is like connected with theirs, that's really important, to work through differences, to work through needs and desires. And it's harder with some than it is others, and it's easier with some than it is others. So it really just depends. But I think each and every co-write that I've done has definitely taught me some sort of lesson, and I appreciate all of it.
Amazing. How do you go with, when was your first author event signing? What was that experience like for you? And I also want to know what your most memorable reader moment has been.
Okay. Well, I was terrified originally. When I was a baby author, I was terrified of going to signings as a signing author, because I had in my head, I was like, no one's going to stop by my table. I'm just going to be sitting there like a bump on a log. No one's going to want to talk to me. And I'm a very friendly person. I want to talk to people. even now when I go to signings, I've got like people lined up at my table. Like if no one's at my table for like more than like if my table is empty for 30 seconds, I'm gone. Like I want to talk to somebody. And my PA and everyone I've ever taken with me hates it. They're like, I gotta chain you to this table. And I was like, but I want to go look at the books too. But my first con was actually Books by the Bridge in Australia. It was my first time going to Sydney. And that was like
What year?
2018, I think. I think it was 2018. I didn't sign though. I wasn't a signing author. I went as like a reader. And why were you there?
I wonder if we've crossed paths already.
So funny. That would be hilarious. It was awesome. Like I loved it. I met Mila Young, who's still a really good friend. I met a lot of great people that I'm still really good friends with. And that was my first ever like reader convention con signing ever at all for any reason. And then my first signing con was actually PennCon, I think later that year. So I think it was still 2000. It might have actually been 2019 now that I think about it. Might have been 2019. But that was my first signing con. And I was with Kel Carpenter, and we split a table because we had the Dark Magi series had just started. And we had, I think we had 3 of the books out already. I'm not 100% sure. Might have only had 2 at that point. The series was still fairly new. We had that con, we went, and I had a great time. It was actually the first time I met AJ Macy. We ended up staying together at a Airbnb, and while we were there, we decided to write together. So, I mean, I love them. They've been great. I've got a lot planned. But you did ask about my most memorable reader moment. I actually have 2. One is really funny in that it proves how awkward I am in front of people and how uncomfortable with compliments I am. But it was at PennCon. I was in the elevator, and I had purple hair at the time, and so I guess I was really recognizable because not many people have purple hair. And I'm just standing in this elevator with AJ, and we're going down to my car. And this girl is like standing across the elevator from us, and she keeps like staring at me. And I'm just like, hi. And she's like, are you Lucy Smoke? And I was like, that's my name. Yeah. And she's like, I love your Instagram stories. And which is great. But as an awkward person, I was like immediately like, why? I don't think I'm that funny. And she's like, you're hilarious. So it wasn't like the best reader, like author moment, but it was one of the funniest, I think, because it was just an automatic reaction on my part. And then one more, this one is actually more somber, more serious, more like, I still think about it. It makes my heart like both happy and like sad at the same time. Like it's a bittersweet feeling, but I wrote a dark romance a while back. It's a standalone called Expression It. And I wrote that during a very dark time in my life. And I had a reader come up to me at the same con and was like, thank you so much for reading this. Like I've struggled with suicide and depression my entire life. And this book just really I related to it so hard. And I was going through a hard time when I was reading it, and it really made me want to like keep living. So thank you for writing it. And I just like cried, and I hugged her for so long. There were like people waiting, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Can I please just hug you? And we did. And it was like, she's a wonderful person. And it just like, that's why I write, and that's why I do what I do, to get experiences like that. And it's always going to be in my mind as one of the top like capture that picture moments in my life. It was great.
What would you say your greatest obstacle and greatest accomplishment has been so far in your writing career?
That's hard. I think my greatest accomplishment will probably change depending on how the future goes. But right now, I think my greatest accomplishment was, this is going to sound corny, but just starting. There's so much doubt. I think a lot of writers have doubt about themselves, about their capabilities. And I know we've talked about this previously off screen about how like being supported in what you want to do with your life and be wanting to become an author and not really finding that support. So just deciding to press that very first publish button was like a huge obstacle to me. And I argued back and forth. And when I finally did it, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Like, if I can do this once, I can do this 100 times. And a lot of people don't think it's that hard to just start. And in a lot of ways, it isn't that hard, but in a lot of ways, it also is. And then, can you remind me of the other part of your question?
Your greatest accomplishment so far. Oh, no, sorry, your greatest obstacle. That was your greatest accomplishment, your greatest obstacle.
Right, okay, greatest obstacle. I think my greatest obstacle has been overcoming expectations, and overcoming the weight of them. Because I mean, I still, with every book I publish, I want to do better. And I have all these expectations from readers now. I think the more readers you get, the bigger the expectations, and just overcoming them each and every time has been like amazing. It's stressful for sure, but it just gives me this huge sense of pride that I can keep going. And because I mean, I'm sure as a writer yourself, you understand, like, we get a lot of reviews that aren't very nice, and sometimes hate mail, and sometimes just trolls on the internet telling us, quit writing, or this was like really bad, or and it's just like, overcoming that and just not really caring, like, because in a lot of ways I write for myself and I'm perfectly happy with it. So I think that matters too. And so, yeah, I feel like that's a really big accomplishment for me, at least.
You and I have spoken before this interview, and I know already that we're going to be like best of friends afterwards. And what I also find very interesting is that we're of similar age. So you're 26, I'm 27. We also started publishing, young. And so I'm curious as to whether when you first published and like when you went to your first signings and events, did you ever find that you might have had an intimidation factor, perhaps just because you felt like you were the new girl on the block, or people might not take you seriously because of your age? Or I know it's a really weird question to ask, but I'm just really curious because I found that these were, and they weren't exactly things that I experienced, but I think it was a part of my self-doubt, I want to say, and my inexperience just as a writer. But I'm wondering if that's a factor that you had as well when you first published.
I would say when I first published, no. When I first published, like I said, I was very just, I'm happy to be here. So it was very like, I wanted to be everybody's friend. I thought everyone was in this just like me, to do like, just to write for themselves and be super happy. I was very positive when I came in. And unfortunately, over the years, I became more and more, I don't want to say I don't think intimidation is the right word for me. I became more and more, a little disillusioned. Obviously not to the point where it made me stop, because I'm not stopping, but I'm also a stubborn person. So I don't foresee myself stopping ever. But like with any industry, you come into contact with people who aren't always there, or aren't always in it for what you think are the right reasons. I don't think it's right or wrong, but I'm in here for, my reasons, and they're in there for their reasons. And you make friends and you lose friends, and it sucks. And then when friendships in the industry fall apart, those connections fall apart. And honestly, I'm not really the kind of person to like focus on what a person can do for me. I don't really appreciate that in a person. I like friendships being friendships. And then, if you have like those connections, that's great too. But that's like a second best to the, you're a great person and I like you kind of shtick. I don't think I've ever really been intimidated by other authors. I'm just not like the type that gets intimidated. I do get stars in my eyes. I fangirl super hard, and I've had people fangirl over me, and it makes me super uncomfortable. So I try really hard not to fangirl over other authors, but I know I fail super hard. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you hung the moon to me.
Yeah, but I think that's one thing too. I just wanted to ask the question because I know there's a lot of young writers out there. And I remember like there's been a lot of writers that I've helped, and a lot of writers have helped me as well. But I know that I've helped a lot of younger writers too. And it was just basically aiding them in building that confidence. And it's the same thing, like everyone's just super excited to be at that start, to be at, you know, the entry level and to go, let's see where this goes. And then it does. And I've seen each and every one of them that I've like kind of like mentor, just go, this is what you need to do. You need to do this, and this is how you do it. And then you see it take on a life of its own. And you remember when you were a baby author, when it took on its own life, and you're just like, it's like this journey is for everyone, but in a different way. And it's so exciting to see. So I don't think necessarily, and one thing like, I have high expectation, a lot of pressure on myself. And my sister says so, she's my biggest cheerleader. And she says to me all the time, and a lot of my networks, I want to say like a lot of my really close author gang, a lot of them are women in their, you know, 40s, and they have children and they're married and they've been around for a little bit longer. And Jasmine always says that to me because I'm like, I'm not where I want to be yet. Like this is where I'm aiming. I'm aiming for the stars. I'm gonna have everything. This is what's gonna happen. She's like, yeah, but you're still young. Like you're not there yet, and that's okay. And I think that's like something that I think we need to be reminded too, because a lot of authors that I have spoken to, especially who are, oh, I shouldn't say younger, like I feel so discriminative, but that there's still time. Like I think that's the biggest factor, is like, and stop putting pressure and so much expectation on yourself, and just enjoy the journey as it goes.
It's really hard to like just enjoy the journey, especially when you see like you're like, I want to be here, and I'm like, I've been in here for 3 years or however many years, and it's like, but you know, I mean, you've got time, but at the same time, if you think like that all the time, that's a lot of times in one sentence, I'm sorry. If you're like really chill all the time, then when are you ever going to have that stress that pushes you, that pressure? Because honestly, I truly believe like nobody can grow without some sort of obstacle, without some sort of pressure point, without like, you know, without that strive for ambition. And I think you and I both have that. So like, yes, I do see a lot of authors who are like in their 30s and 40s and even older, and they're doing great and amazing. And I'm like, I just want to be where they're at. And, you know, of course my parents do the same thing. They remind me, well, you know, you're still in your 20s. And I was like, yeah, I understand that. But like, I want to be where they're at by the time I'm 30.
Yeah. Yes. And I think, and this is the interesting thing, is this is, and I feel like I should put a disclaimer on this. I'm not being like discriminatory by age or anything like that. But I just found it very interesting, and maybe it's just who we are personally as people, but having the work ethic and the strive. And I guess that's what I was curious about, because I know that by seeing like how quickly you've come and how quickly you've grown and put that hard work in, because this is the thing, is that you don't grow and develop. Only few are an overnight success. But then you can tell the people who have really pushed, they've done late nights, they've like smashed in, you know, they've got really tight deadlines, and they just go and go and go and go. And you can tell that by the results and the success that they've had. And you know what? You don't even really see what they've actually put into it. You only see, you know, how many reviews they've got or how many ratings and stuff like that. So that's just why I was curious as to where you grew your, I want to say, work ethic and developed its stride. But obviously you had that from the get-go when you went into this.
Yeah. I mean, like unintentionally, but yeah, I think that's just who I am as a person. But I don't think it's discriminatory, because I mean, you got to understand everybody's lives are different. We were very lucky enough that we were in a position that when we started because we wanted. I know a lot of other authors, even if they are older now and they didn't see success until they were older, I mean, they have families, they had lives, they had full-time jobs beforehand. I don't think age is like really relevant to success. So
what would you say your 3 top marketing tips are for fellow writers and authors?
Oh, that's hard. I say that's hard because I am like not the person to ask when it comes to marketing. I'm still learning about marketing. I just started learning Amazon ads like a couple of months ago. So I'm like very new when it comes to marketing. But I guess top 3 would definitely be product, like your quality content. I think quality will have a lasting effect. It may not have an immediate effect on your brand, which is another marketing thing. is having a cohesive brand. And I've taken enough classes now, because I still take classes on marketing and writing and how to like make it in this industry. And all of my classes are like, you have to have a cohesive branding. And from what I've seen, you do. So that's marketing tip number 2, have a cohesive brand. I would put it at number 1 if I could, but I already said number 1. So you could put that at the top though, if you wanted to. So cohesive branding, the quality of your content, making sure it's as good as it can possibly be, because I've definitely had to go back and rewrite stuff and it sucks so much. So quality of your content is number 2. And number 3 is how you present yourself, which that can be tied into branding. But when I say that, I also like a lot of stuff can be tied into branding. When I say how you present yourself, I mean how you present yourself as a professional figure, but also how you present your work. Like, you know, making sure that it goes with the genre, doing your research. Absolutely do your research. I did not do any research when I first started. And I think had I done research, I would have done a lot better in the beginning. So yeah, those are my tips. Research, cohesive branding, and making sure your quality is as good as it can possibly be.
Amazing. Good tips. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, if you weren't a full-time writer, what else do you think you would do?
Try to be. I've always wanted to be a writer. I mean, when I say like I started writing like 15 years ago, I mean like before this, I think I wanted to be an actress, and my parents told me that's going to be really hard to get into. You should pick a more stable job. And I was like, well, I guess I could be an author. So I mean, that made sense to me. Now I'm like, that's not any more stable, but okay. So yeah, I've always had a creative brain. So there's like a lot of stuff I'd still like to do. I don't think I'll ever have a definitive career change where I'll be like, okay, I'm done writing forever and I only want to do this now. I'll probably write for the rest of my life, even when I'm old and frail and speaking my words to the computer because I can't type because my hands are so gnarled and like broken from like 50 years of typing. But so yeah, I think I'd still be trying to write. Otherwise, I'd probably try to start being a voice actor. I've always wanted to be one. My dad thought I was going to be one when I was a kid. So I might be there. I mean, a more realistic answer would be I'd probably be teaching English at a university. Because that's what I went for a master's for, is I wanted to teach at a university. I do enjoy teaching. But I also really like the creative, weird jobs that you don't hear very often.
I could see you being a voice actress, actually. As soon as you said it, I was like, wait a second. Would you consider attempting to do your own audiobooks?
I don't like audiobooks.
That's a no then.
No, I could. I've thought about it. I have, because I feel like it would be, I could stand it more, I think, if I was doing it. I'm just very picky about voices. And I think it's because of like, I mean, maybe they go hand in hand with my excitement and desire to be a voice actor, but also with my like, I don't like audiobooks because it has to have the perfect voice. And if it doesn't have the perfect voice, it doesn't work for me. I'm very picky with voices. I have favorite voice actors. I know them by name. I know their faces. So there's that.
That's amazing.
Did you not realize this?
No, you're cool. Definition of weird equals cool.
I feel like that's a nice way of putting it, but thank you. I'll take the compliment.
I'll take it. What is your dream? What are you chasing as an author? What is the ultimate goal?
Well, if I'm being for real, I've kind of already achieved it in a way. Because originally my dream was to be an author. And so I published, and technically, okay, my dream came true. That's where it is. I think my dream changes because I keep it at a level that I can achieve. And as soon as I achieve that, I'm like, okay, what's my next dream? Like, so my first one was like, I'd like to be an author, and I did that. So now I am that. And my next one was, I'd like to be an author full time where I can live off my writing. And I'm doing that now. So I've achieved that dream. So I guess my next dream is to just there are levels to my next dream. I'd like to own a house. I'd like to travel the world some more. Wasn't really possible during the pandemic. I started it, but again, pandemic ruined a lot of plans. I'd like to reach the New York Times. I've never reached it. I would love to reach it on my own. And I feel like that one might take some time, but I'm okay with it because I mean, I'm determined and I'm stubborn, so I'm ready for it.
What actually, so you are a USA Times bestseller. I feel like we need to mention this. What was your experience like? What book was that for? When did that happen? And how did you celebrate?
So it was for, I don't, earlier in the interview, I told you that I had a co-author that we published together a prequel and then we unpublished it because we're finishing the series. It was with her. Her name is Carissa Locke. She's amazing. She's a great friend of mine and I adore her. She's actually like, I don't want to say a lot, but she's at a different stage in her life. She's older than I am. So she's got like a grown child. And so it's really interesting to see how different our lives are, but how relatable we find each other. And so she's a great person. So we wrote a prequel, kind of like I don't know how to explain. It's kind of like a Red Riding Hood urban fantasy rewrite. It was reverse harem. It was shifters. It was shifters in a completely different way. And when we hit USA Today, she had already hit it before. So for her, it wasn't like a big deal. But for me, I was like, oh my God. I was like a gleeful little child. And I like called my dad and I was like, Dad, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what happened. Granted though, like he didn't know I was a published author until like 6 months after it happened, after my first book. Yeah, I wanted to keep it quiet from my family. I actually didn't publish my face at all for like the first 6 months or something like that. Which is odd because that's become very well known now as my face on all of my social media. But yeah, no, I went out to dinner. I celebrated. I was really proud of myself. I was really proud of my friends. I think I became a USA Today bestselling author it was in an anthology with a couple of other authors. Like I think Tate James is in it. I think Sam Stunick was also in it. But it was great. I felt really accomplished and really proud, and I'm still really proud of it. And I sent my dad, I think, the list with my name circled on it, and I think he printed it out and framed it.
Oh, that's so cute.
He hasn't been super supportive, but once I got there, he was like, that's my baby.
That's so cute. Okay, so I have at the end, I'm doing this new segment called Speed Dating with an Author. So it's quick 5 rapid questions. Here we go. What's one of the most clumsiest moments you've ever had? I knew this would be a good one.
So as an author, I mean, I haven't fainted in front of an author before, like at a con. I've definitely tripped in front of several people. At Babe, I lost it. It was okay. This is funny. I was at Babe and I didn't realize that they were opening an hour early for VIP readers. And so I finished my table, setting it up, and I was strolling through the other aisles, just looking at everybody set up and saying hello. And I was all the way at the end, as far as I could get from my table. And I was passing by Rebecca Royce, another author friend of mine. And I turned and I was like, hi. And she's like, Lucy, what are you doing? The readers are here. And I was like, what? I know, I'll be right there. I'm going to she's like, no, honey, the doors are open. They're inside. And I was like, what? And I just like booked it like across the room towards my table. And later on, she mentioned to me, she's like, I've never seen anybody run that fast. I was in a dress too. It was, it was Babe. We were all wearing ball gowns. So like me running in a ball gown across the room was, I don't know if that was clumsy, but it was definitely me. It was very me.
If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be?
Impossible. Just immediately straight to my head. Impossible is definitely a word. Stubborn and expressionate, which is actually a combination of two words, expression and passionate. So, but does that count?
I'll take it. I'll accept it.
Yay, thank you.
You said it so convincingly. I can't deny you.
Well, technically, if it's been published in a work 3 times, then that means it's technically a word.
Really?
Yeah, that's the rule. 3
Well,
times. I think it's 3 different publications, and I think it has to be 3 different authors. I'm not 100% sure on that though.
Wow. What song best describes you?
I already had 2 songs straight up. Daisy by Ash Nico. I don't know if you've heard it.
No.
Then maybe you should listen to it.
I'd love to this.
It's a TikTok song too. It got popular on TikTok. And then Sweet But Psycho. I can't remember who sings that though.
Oh, but I know the song. I can't remember who sings it, but I know that song.
Yep. And it's funny because like I am really sweet, but like I'm also a Scorpio. That has no bearing, but if you believe in horoscopes, then I'm crazy.
I know I'm a Virgo. I'm the maiden.
Oh, cute.
You would have thought.
I'm not like a horoscope person. I became a basic white girl just now when I said that. I was like, because people make fun of like, oh, I'm a Scorpio. No, Daniela, you're just a jerk. So can we add that to the list of clumsy? I don't know. Like, I'm not physically clumsy. I'm just verbally word vomit everywhere.
I'll take it. I mean, I'm not cutting this out. You're stuck with this forever. It's on the internet.
You would cut this out because I'm an awkward turtle. It's fine. It's okay. I accept myself for who I am. So people should know what they're getting into with me.
I love it. What is your life motto?
Okay. So when you say life motto, all I can think of are like quotes that I have like ingrained within me and on me. I'm just going to give you 3 quotes, okay? Are you good with that? Are you okay, good. So one is Winston Churchill, history will be kind to me for I intend to write it. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but I hope it means that you're going to have a hand in history. And I hope I will, at least in the publishing world. So that's my life motto, is to be big enough that I can have some sort of hand in the history of publishing. And then I don't know who said this one, but it was like, I'm trying to remember exactly how to word it, but it's like something about failure. And it's basically like the next time you fail, like fail tomorrow and fail better. Basically fail better with each time you do it, but just, get up every time. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go with the third one.
Oh, serious.
Bad. It's not bad. I just can't remember the exact words, which is really bad because it's tattooed on my back. Yes, and I'm drawing a blank. I've never drawn it's a Peter Pan quote, and I'm like, I hate myself right now because I'm like, I have never forgotten this quote in my life. That's why it's on my skin, and I can't remember it. And it's not like I can be like, Oh wait, now I remember it. I think I actually saw the first word and I was like, I know what it is now. Tattoos are great. Get one. To die would be an awfully big adventure, but to live would be an even greater one.
What's a unique talent or skill set that you have that not many people know of?
I actually thought about this one. And I asked my friends too, because I'm like, what is something that not a whole lot of people know of? Because the only talent I seem to have is that I can write and I can read. But everybody knows that one. I can talk a lot. Random facts. I know really like a lot of random facts in my head, and I don't know how I know some facts, but I know facts.
Well, thank you very much for this speed dating. To be continued. I would go on another 2-minute date with you. I tick of approval. I would.
Great. Your turn next time. I'll think of some questions.
Yeah, great. So what's coming up for you? What should we be on the lookout for? What books are to be released?
Well, the final book in Avalon and Dean series is coming out in April. And so that's coming out in April. It's called Natural Born Killers, and I love it so much. It's being a little rough to write, and I think it's because it's the end for them. And it's really sad because Avalon and I have gotten really close, and I love her so much, but that's coming out. I have a series already out. I've taken down the individual books because I didn't like the covers at all. And they were older covers. I've taken down the individual books, and I'm republishing them, and it has new content. I rewrote a lot of it. And so basically it's called the Break series, and I'm publishing them in volumes now. So the Break Volume 1 with all new content is coming out, I think in March. I think it's set for March right now, but I'm debating on publishing it early in February. So it might be coming out even sooner. And then AJ and I have another book coming out in the Romance After Dark anthology called Violent Tendencies. And that one is an arranged marriage mafia romance. It's a prequel to a longer book, and it's coming out in March 21st. So those are the next three ones. And then, of course, I'm actually planning a bunch of other things that I haven't announced yet.
Where do we find you? Where do we stalk you?
On Facebook, mostly Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Those are my main accounts. I do have a Twitter. I'm rarely on it because I still have not figured out how to use it. But I'm always on Instagram. I post on Instagram at least once a day. I can't help myself. And on TikTok, not always on TikTok, but I try to post once a day. It doesn't always happen, but I post a couple of times a week. And then I'm in my Facebook group, which is called Smoking Hot Readers. But tis, get it, Lucy Smoke. No. I'm not fun. It's okay. But I'm always on that group. You can stop laughing at me now. It's fine. I'm always in my Facebook group, and so is my PA. So those are the three main places you can find me.
I have had an amazing time. Thank you so much for hopping on, Lucy. And I hope to have you again soon. This has been really fun.
Anytime, seriously. I don't know. I mean, if you want to call me up and just talk about anime, we can just talk about anime all day.
Oh my goodness. This is good. Oh, okay, yeah. So I feel like I should say, behind the scenes, guys, Lucy and I spoke a little bit yesterday, and we're definitely going to be best of friends because we're actually both really big nerds, and we love manga and anime, and it's going to be a mess, but it's going to be a great union. So who knows? You may see some more of that. I don't know.
I'm excited. Like, seriously, I don't have that many friends who are as into anime as I am, or as into manga as I am. So, like, I'm serious. If you ever want to talk shop about manga and anime, hit me up. I can go on for hours, as you found out yesterday.
Okay, so we're going to end it there. This is going to get messy really fast. Thank you so much for hopping on, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.